It's actually very pretty. There's no doubt. Actually, they are really a bunch of creative heads. Huh? Amazing.
Very. Are we waiting for Madhura?
No, we are just, Madhura will join a little later. I think we can start. Somebody's, I think 2 devices are probably working. That's why there's some echo. Otherwise, I think we can just start.
So we'll begin with the session now. A very warm hello to everyone present here. I, Dhwani Panchal, an ambassador at AFH, welcome you all to today's event, Journalism Piece by Piece. This is an exclusive event carried out by Aspire for Her on journalism as a part of our Spotlight Month. We would like to make sure that we are catering to your expectations. Hence, forms are being circulated in the chat box. Please ensure that you fill in for better interactive sessions in future. Also, if you have any questions or queries for our speakers and anything related to today's webinar, please keep mentioning in the chat box. They'll be answered at the end of the session. So, why delay? Let's begin with the session. Firstly, I would like to introduce our mentor, Ruchita Tandon, the one who always motivates one's spirit. She graduated as a topper with bachelor's in electronics from Pune University. She started in the Cellular Network Planning and Development Division at Vodafone Idea with the distinction of being the first woman in the engineering department. She worked there for about 2.5 years while on a fast track. After a gap of 22 years, she staged a career comeback and joined a social startup focused on improving the diversity equations in India. She currently leads the alliances and partnerships at Aspire for Her, launched on IWT 2020, with the vision of getting more than 1 million women in the workforce by 2025. Ruchita ma'am inspires every other woman to challenge themselves as a life example of successful return to work. I would request Ruchita ma'am to share a few words with us.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for that kind introduction, Dhwani. Yes, it's a lovely evening with all of us gathered here to see our favorite mentor, Rica Roy, and welcome Rupam Jain to the platform of Aspire for Her. We launched Aspire for Her on the 8th of March, 2020, with a mission to motivate young women, primarily from college, to enter and persevere in the workforce and take up great careers, and most importantly, not drop out later. Aspire for Her aims at adding $5 billion to India's GDP by adding 1 million women in the workforce by 2025. And one of the things that I'd like to mention here, which most of you are not aware, is that India actually ranks 4th from the bottom in a list of 156 countries in terms of the participation of women in our workforce. We started Aspire for Her primarily with a 5-point winning mindset to bring about these small changes. And of course, we want boys and girls both to be a part of this platform. And what do we do in these 5 points that we talk about? Our first pillar is mentors and role models. Just like Rica is one of our mentors, and of course, our favorite mentors here. We have more than 100 mentors who are women leaders on our platform. We have a lot of learning opportunities. We have learning opportunities from IBM, VMware, Cisco, LinkedIn, QA. We provide a lot of webinars and career previews. And what do you see from them? You see the various career tracks, which could be either conventional or non-conventional. And we make you hear actual stories from real life people about real life incidents so that you know what the career is exactly about. These are not just counselors who can tell you what a career should be like. We have a very exciting peer community, all our young ambassadors from 19 to 25, extremely creative, extremely thoughtful, and we also have a lot of peer learning lessons which they provide. The last out of all the 5 pillars of all the 4 pillars that build towards our community, we aim at providing a 3E model of employment, entrepreneurship, and higher education. We have a lot of jobs and opportunities, even internships that are posted. We request all of you to actually become members with us so that you can take care of all, you can enjoy all the resources. And I would not like to take up much time of everybody, but I would actually like Rica Roy and Rupam to share their insights into this wonderful career track that we would talk about. Thank you, Dhwani. Over to you.
Thank you, ma'am, for inspiring us every day. So now, coming to the most awaited part of the session. Today, we have two amazing personalities among us. Our first speaker is Rica Roy. Rica Roy is a deputy editor with NDTV. She has spent 20 years in the newsroom and on the ground as a reporter. She anchors Turning Point, a sports program, and also news on NDTV. She passionately mentors budding sportswomen. She is also a media trainer who trains women in news and sports in India on behalf of the Australian Broadcasting Corporation and helps them get up to the speed with the latest tech in the newsroom. Over the years, she has worked and gained skills in reporting, camera operation, media relations, radio, sports writing, web writing, and storytelling. She also works as a trainer at Wins ABC, as well as our mentor at our very own Aspire for Hope. I would now request Rica ma'am to share a few words with us.
Ma'am, you're on mute.
Well, good evening to you all. Thank you very much, Dhani, for that lovely introduction. And it's such a pleasure to be back here with you all and talking about journalism today, a field that's, that's a chosen field for me, and something that I enjoy greatly, telling stories. And that's what I've been doing for the last 20 plus years. And well, for me, telling stories is about connecting with people, is about showing the mirror to the society, putting up a mirror for the society to see what's really happening. And in trying to tell stories, I have picked out a variety of subjects. I've reported on politics, I've reported on society, I've reported on various social issues. And for the last 15 years or so, my beat primarily has been sports. And through the sporting lens, I've been able to see a lot of the society. Well, sports is not just about action on the field. There's a lot that happens in between the games as well. So you get to see a lot of legal side of the story unfolding. There's politics in sports. Sports is also soft diplomacy. So a lot of it combined is what makes up the sports beat and helps me relay a lot of stories. And what I've loved doing all these years is exploring different formats. I have been from a feature writer to a writer in a magazine. I've explored a little bit of radio. I was, as my broadcast course, I've mastered my post-graduation is in radio, but I didn't get an opportunity to do news on radio. So I got an opportunity to be on TV and do news on TV. I worked in television, and now, there's a whole new world of working on the web. So, things, the way we do journalism has changed over the years, and as effective as journalism is becoming, the way we relay journalism, the way we broadcast journalism has also changed and has become even more effective. So I would like to tell you, I would like to share some of those ways and means of connecting with people today, and how social media has taken over a lot of that space of conventional media. What's real news, what's fake news, all of it. But before I go any further, I'll hand over to Dhwani, and you can also hear from Rupam, and together we can also take your questions.
Thank you, ma'am, for your inspiring words. Next, we have Rupam Jain with us. Rupam Jain is a senior correspondent at Thomson Reuters, which is an information technology and services-based industry. She reports exclusive news on reports on politics, foreign policy, internal security, pandemic, natural resources, and the banking sector. She is the first journalist to report from the epicenter of 2015 earthquake in Nepal. She has worked as a correspondent for various countries such as South Africa, Afghanistan, India, UAE, Oman. She has achieved a degree in Masters of Arts focused in Business and Economics Journalism from Columbia University, New York. We are glad to have you here. I would request Rupam ma'am to share a few words and inspire every one of us present over here.
Hi, can you hear me? Just checking.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, hi. Thanks. So thank you for the introduction, and thank you for all your, understanding on the aspect of journalism. Also, as Rica mentioned, we are very happy to take some of your questions. I think I'll just begin with just saying that, I just feel that one of the most relevant professions amid this crisis we are all in has been journalism, and is continuing to be, especially at a time when, the country really needs, or even the world really needs, absolutely accurate information on a minute-to-minute basis, and the understanding of a pandemic. So for me, at this point of time, I mean, for Rica and someone like me, in the last 1.5 year, I mean, almost 1.5 year, work has multiplied at least by 4 times. Also, we are learning through the process. So there's also been a steep educational curve here. And yet at the same time, there's risk involved in continuing to cover, to travel, to work, to be able to also understand the grief people are going through in this, situation. So journalism is an extremely important profession and has played extremely crucial role, I would say, in the last 1.5 year. In the recent years, if we see when was the moment when news made the most impact, I think we are in that period right now. So, I also think that there'll be a lot of questions, so I wouldn't take much time. You all can just, I mean, whatever the format you would like, I'm very happy to answer some questions. And if somebody would like to chat later separately over the weekend, then we can do that also. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, Rupam, ma'am. Now I'm certain everyone is just as pumped as me to exchange views and learn a lot from our board speakers. I now hand it over to Jasmine to carry out the session further.
Thank you, Dhwani.
Just a sec, there are a lot of questions coming up in the chat box. While you have your questions, we can also take some of those, and they will keep coming on, and you can direct them either to me or Rupam.
Sure, ma'am. We are going to have an audience Q&A at the end of the session. So before we begin, we have the Aspire for Her link, the form to join our community, circulating in the chat box. So we would really request all of y'all to fill the form right away and join. We will wait for y'all for 2 minutes to fill the form, and then we will be carrying on with the session. So please do so right now. We would really like to have you all up with us as a part of the community.
Who's starting the session, question answer?
Yes, Gargi will be taking over, and then we will have Gayatri after that. So Gargi, you can start with the session. Thank you.
Thank you. A very lovely evening to everyone, and a warm welcome to our guests, Rica ma'am and Rupam ma'am. I'm Gargi Roy from Mount Carmel College and an ambassador for Aspire for Her. And I would like to direct a few questions to both of you and would like to know a few of your experiences as well. So my first question would be for Rica ma'am. So why pursue journalism as a career? I mean, what inspired you in this field of journalism, and how did you come into this field? If you could throw some light on it.
Okay, I will break up the question into why journalism was a career, and then how did I come into the field. So answer for your first question is, while I was growing up, I have always seen, I am a first generation journalist in my family, and I have always seen the relevance of a newspaper when I woke up in the morning, and how important it was to know the news of the day, how important it was to know what's happening around you in the world. Also, I was an avid debater. I was into the quizzing circuit, and I was always wanting to know what's happening around me in the world. So I think for me, what happened later was journalism was a very natural extension. Also, sports happened because I used to play, and when I stopped playing, the one of the ways of staying in touch with sport was by being connected through writing. So it fell in place for me. But my journey has been a little unconventional. I did not study to become a journalist. I started journalism. I started writing as a novice writer when I was about 9 years old. And I used to write in my school magazine, and later it became college magazine. I was recruited as a trainee reporter in Aaj Tak when I was in my first year college. So my journey has been rather unconventional, and it's carried on from there. I studied chemistry honors. I did not go on to make a career in chemistry because I think there was a calling for me, and journalism was at the heart of it. If I had gone to become a chemist, probably I would have been a very bad chemist. And it's all good that I became a journalist, because that's where my heart was. And that's why I tell everyone that follow your heart, follow your passion. The best thing that happened to me was I was able to marry my passion with my profession, and that really was how my journey happened, and it's carrying on.
Such a lovely, inspiring story, ma'am, and it's like an eye opener for most of us who are in some other field, studying other field of study, but would like to follow something else. It's really, really, like, I can relate to it a lot, because I'm a biotech student, and I want to pursue psychology later on. So yeah, it's like follow your heart is what that matters. Thank you so much, ma'am. Rupam, ma'am, so we heard about your spine-chilling stories of Afghanistan, and really it just makes us enthralled, and like we can't even fathom it. So would you like to share your experiences with all of us right now?
Yeah, so I mean, as Rica said, you can study to begin with. The beauty of journalism is that anybody at any point of time can consider it as an entry point to be able to become a journalist. The only criteria I think is really important to understand is that what makes news, and also the ability to read and write, and to be able to also have a slightly extrovert tendency to not hesitate to ask difficult questions to people. So that's one thing I would like to add. But yeah, in terms of Afghanistan, I mean, it is a war zone, and it's turning out to be one of the most difficult stories in the region as we speak. In fact, I was just doing something, working on something from Afghanistan just today. I think the question around is that how much ability you would like to use within yourself to be able to take that kind of risk. Now, risk in journalism can be anywhere. It could also be at a protest site in India. It could also be, sometimes even covering a cricket match where there could be a possibility of a stampede. It could be a war zone. So the idea to be able to deal with crowd and uncertain situations is what is quite an important ingredient when you choose journalism as a career. Now, in this, everybody has a choice to make whether they would like to do more extreme, adventurous, rather also terrifying journalism, or at the same time, some people like to, sit and write longer pieces with a little bit more sanity. So it's a choice how you choose the medium. And then, of course, it's a highly competitive field. extremely competitive. There are, I mean, to get into this field, one can get in also as, interns, but to sustain it for a really long time, because no 2 days are the same. It's almost like digging a well every day for water. So, I mean, there is a lot of excitement, but it's it requires a lot of rigor, I must say. So yeah, anywhere it could be, So I think the aspect which people associate with journalism of glamour should be slightly demystified, because what looks from the outside, there is a certain excitement in the profession, but it comes with honest and complete commitment. You really can't have 8-hour job. This is actually like a good 20-hour job sometimes. So yeah, I mean, and then you just keep doing it.
I just pick up from what Rupam said. The reason that Rupam was able to go and do Afghanistan at a time when Afghanistan was practically burning, and every day I used to be in touch with her. Perhaps every moment when bombs going off, Rupam would be sending me a message saying, "All good. I'm beginning to file," which means that she's fine. She's beginning to file the story. And the reason that she was able to be there and work in that situation was she has very high level of resilience. So for all the budding journalists, there are a few things that I would like to tell you that you perhaps need to inculcate to have a profession, a successful profession in journalism. Number one is resilience. Number two, knowing your beat, knowing 360 degree of what you do. If you have chosen a political beat or an economic beat or any beat that you've chosen, then be prepared to answer 100% of what the field that you've chosen. Third thing, have a hip pocket skill. When you're working in a newsroom, if there are 30 people in the newsroom and you are number 31, you should have that one extra skill that is yours, that's completely yours, and that makes you invaluable. That makes you stand out in that room of 31 people. Number 5, I would say, is you need to be like a greyhound. You need to just be sniffing news. And Rupam said journalism is a 20-hour profession. I would say that it is 24/7. You work around the clock, and news doesn't happen when you are free and you're willing to make news. News happens in its own time. And the fifth and the most final thing is, while you prepare to give yourself 100%, learn to breathe and take those mini breaks, take those time out from a very, very, very busy schedule that helps you recharge and reinvigorate yourself.
Absolutely, ma'am. And like after seeing during the pandemic how everyone used to go to the studios and give news so that we could get that at the comfort of our home, it's really some sort of passion that drives journalists. And it's overwhelming sometimes to watch them do this work, and it's at the frontline level, be it at a war zone, be it at a pandemic. So my next question is for Rica, ma'am. My question would be, according to you, what are the most important skills that you need to have as a journalist? Like you were talking about the 31st person in the room should have something of his own. So what are the most important skills one must have to outshine others or be successful in this career of journalism?
Like I mentioned that, apart from the 5 things that I mentioned, the other things is like you should be able to work on your skill set and recognize very early in your career, because journalism is a very vast field. What is it that you like to do, and where does your heart lie? Once again, if you want to be a journalist, if you want to be a journalist, then what do you want to do in journalism? Do you want to go out on the field, report? Do you want to be in the newsroom and edit stories, edit texts? That's also a kind of, those other people who are very important as well, because they are the ones who stay in the office and they knit together the stories. Then the third kind of people are the technology people who are a big support in a news organization. And there are a lot of people who come from technology background into the news profession, wanting to support the work that we do. Then in journalism, if you want to become a broadcast journalist, radio journalist, or be working on digital media, working on print media, just decide the space, decide what you want to do, and accordingly pick up the skills. And all of this may not happen in your journalism school. It happens when you speak to people. It happens when you constantly watch stuff that is relevant. And being relevant is a very, very big thing in today's world. So, try to be relevant in what you do, and hence pick those people. Today, because we are in a connected space, there is no lack of understanding from mentors on how the space works and how each little thing in the field of journalism or any other field that you choose works. So try and understand your space and then execute it. I think one of the things is about learning, and the other thing is about execution. So you have to be perfect in doing both these things. And the skill set, I would say, certain things are specific to journalism, but most of it is quite generic to most of the other professions.
So, ma'am, as you were talking about, as a journalist, you need to be sniffing news around 24/7. So once we gather the news, how important is it for us to have a storytelling skill to, present that news in an interesting format so that people read and know about it? So to make every news interesting. So how important is a storytelling skill?
I think Rupam mentioned that it's important to pick out, because there's a lot of information that's floating around us, to be able to have that understanding of what makes news. So there's a lot of news that we pick and we headline, which is important to people like you and me. For example, when we report on vaccines, so that's a news that you can use. So try and see the news that will be of use to you. So when you, as a journalist, when you go out and report, you have to think that how does your report make relevance or matter to the auntie in the neighborhood? Would she be interested? Would she open the TV or read the newspaper to what you're writing or what you're broadcasting? If it doesn't matter to her, then probably you shouldn't waste time on that. In the sense, she may not be a sports fan, but she may just be telling her daughter today that, look, Deepika Kumari, a girl from Jharkhand whose father drives an auto rickshaw, who once wanted to sit in a plane, is the world number archer today. So it's a story of inspiration. It may not directly affect her life, but she derives inspiration from it. Maybe if she would like to tell this story to her daughter or her son. Similarly, the vaccine news. There's a lot of other news of, we are talking about Delta plus variants of COVID. We are talking about possible, strikes at the naval base yesterday. This is the news on security. One is on health. The other is on sports. Similarly, there are stories. There are so many stories about, whether the exams are going to happen this year or not, and when are they going to happen, board exams. So that's of huge interest. So that's news. And we pick those news because they are of interest to our viewers, our readers. So if you look at the first page of a newspaper, you will know the top 5 stories are stories that are of interest to people like you and me, our lives, our living or our lives over a period of time. So that's how you pick news. But I think the key thing is, when I went to a journalism school, I was told, just think whether Mrs. Jones or Mrs. Smith will be interested in the news. If not, then that's not a news.
That's so well put, ma'am. So my next question is to Rupam, ma'am. So can one start a career in journalism while being in school? And is going to journalism school a must for a profession like journalism?
By school, do you mean high school or like?
Yeah, starting from high school itself.
Okay, so high school. So I would say that, see, I started when I was 18, and I think maybe Rica must have started along the same time, like a proper job, even if we were interns. But I think, yeah, it's always good to start early with journalism. But at the same time, I also feel, instead of starting too early, it's also very important to get your degrees in place. And when I say degrees in place, I also feel that journalism degree at some stage is interesting, but I don't think it's a be all and end all. Personally, I also find that I find personally very interesting if somebody comes with a science background or an economics background or even, accountancy background. Somebody who could even have a background in environment sciences, history, literature. It could be just math. And I think people with different backgrounds of, specialization in other subjects tend to become or have a little more nuanced view while doing journalism, rather than just a single straitjacket, we got a journalism degree. I always would recommend that it's always good to graduate and do your maybe post-graduations also, if required, in a subject which is different from journalism. You can then at some stage, if you would like, then consider a degree. And I understand that the entry to journalism requires a lot of people to do journalism courses these days. But I also feel at least in your graduation, you should consider and pursue something completely different. And maybe for post-graduations, you all can consider writing courses, journalism degree in India or overseas. Also, it's a lot about exposure. So sometimes doing things from a very different place, it's not necessary that you have to do it from big cities. You could do it from a smaller place and with a much more interesting faculty. That's my suggestion to people. Like I studied history and political science in Loreto College in Calcutta as my graduation. And then after a good 10 years being a journalist, I did my master's from Columbia University, which was in business and finance journalism. Now, those 10 years, I realized that what is missing and what are the things I would like to learn to be able to take my career further ahead. So I think it's always good also to be able to consider sabbaticals after a few years. So it's not like, okay, you finish, you studied, and then you just work. You can always consider, studying, working, then maybe taking a break, doing a sabbatical, doing small programs on the side. So with journalism, your education is something which continues alongside. It's just not something that one should take a break from. It could just, be something which is always parallelly being managed and curated. Thank you.
Let's just respond to Jaita's question.
Sorry, ma'am?
Can I just respond to Jaita's question? Jaita just asked a question.
Yes, ma'am, sure. But we'll take the questions at the end of the session as well. But if you can, it's fine. Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Relevance to what she's saying,
Yes,
what Rupam is saying. Well, Jaita, the thing is, yes, you can do it for fun. I had an intern called Swara Garge, who, again, I had met on one of these career tracks with one of the colleges through AFH. And she wasn't sure that she would take up a career in journalism. She's from a completely different background. She's from anthropology. And after having done the internship, she decided to finish her anthropology course and start writing. So yes, while you are doing your bachelor's, if you or even in school, if you are in school and if you wish to do some internships, I did my first internship when I was about 11 years old with with a lady from CNN at that time. So yes, if you are in school and if you are willing to learn, explore, and if it interests you, of course you should do internships and figure out whether this interests you as a long-term career.
So, ma'am, the media always expects us the students to have, to always be ready to face challenges upfront and to be always have skilled and always have that experience. But at college level or at whatever university level, they're not given such hands-on experiences. So, what would you suggest in that case?
Gargi, that's what platforms like AFH are for, where you have mentors who will then tell you or who will give you exposure inside their the newsroom or their offices, whatever field they are in, to know how they operate. And once you see that, and see what is happening right now is because of COVID, we are not being able to give access to a lot of interns inside our office, which is why they cannot see the systems that we work on, the technology. There are two parts of journalism, broadcast journalism, I would say. One is learning technology and the systems. And the other part is learning journalism. So learning how to do reporting, how to build your stories, how to write scripts, how to edit. So how to write scripts, how to find stories, how to prioritize news, how to edit, all of this you can teach a person online. But so far as the newsroom software and the machines are concerned, since it's COVID time, I think as long as it lasts, interns won't be able to get access to newsrooms. The moment it's over, I think once again the interns can come in and have a reasonable understanding of what goes inside the newsroom and be prepared for the industry. So, it's great that you guys are a member of Aspire and you would get to know a lot more about the industry space than many others. And, this will make you skilled. This will make you ready for your industry space. I'm sure the colleges don't have as much bandwidth to help you with things that happen in the industry, and they will give you a course, they'll give you education, but at the end of the day, the internships that you do is what stands out and what becomes important for your employer.
Absolutely, ma'am. So, Rupam, ma'am, would you like to share some thoughts on this as well?
Yeah, sure. And as Rica said, I'm sure this platform is a great way to connect to people. And also you all can continue, keeping in touch. I'm not saying that we might not be available all the time, but, if you all have a genuine question, if you all have a dilemma, if you all are also working on something, you all can always keep in touch, as people who are interested in the profession in the long run. And also just one more thing, which I would really like to emphasize, that there is no substitute to reading and good reading. I would really think that, organization like yours could even consider having subscription to like the New Yorker or the Wall Street Journal or the Washington Post, as a, you all can share a subscription, collect and pool resources together to be able to read a lot more, and then even consider even having discussions that how was one same story discussed or written by different organizations. I think a lot of training can be just done amongst yourself by just having the idea that, okay, if we can read 5 articles, come back together and then discuss then how was this done, whether it's in print or in TV, or even a podcast. So to understand the medium, you have to first deconstruct the medium also. So that could be a way, because if you can create subgroups that, okay, these are the people who are interested in journalism or communication. Similarly, you all can also ask for resources from people like us who could suggest you that try and read this, try and follow this, try and watch these series. So that's something, it could be a constant learning process.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Over to you, Gayatri.
Thank you, Gargi. So my first question would be to Rupam ma'am. And now, ma'am, the question I wanted to ask you is that it is often noted that regional languages are not given equal importance in journalism. So what is your take on the involvement of regional languages in journalism, especially in a country like us, like a democratic country like India?
I mean, very interesting question. When I was mentioning New Yorker and the Washington Post, I was immediately thinking about the Hindi dailies or vernacular dailies. I personally feel that the regional language explosion in India is yet to take place. I mean, we are still not being able to exploit our skill sets to be able to tell stories properly. Of course, in Hindi that happens, but to make them a universal story. Like, I'll give you an example that the best stories and some of the most difficult stories during the pandemic, and how things are happening on ground, was reported by regional newspapers. Take example of the stories of the bodies allegedly floating in the Ganga River. They were all broken by regional newspapers, by reporters with either Hindi or Marathi or Gujarati, or even different stories from South India. All I'm trying to say is that y'all can also think of coming up with small boutique products for regional languages, and there is so much to be done in that spectrum. We are of course focusing on English or Hindi, but I think every region, considering our population is so big, there is immense scope in regional languages. And that's one thing I think, if you look at the example of South America, I mean, case in point is that how, they have actually integrated so many languages, aspect of Spanish in their mainstream reporting and writing, that it is justice to the language also. And I think it's really important to read regional coverage, be it Punjab Kesari, be it any newspaper in this country, or even watching sometimes regional news channels, because you really get a clear sense of regional reporting through them. So, you have to have a micro and a macro view in all of these things. You can absorb from international and national press. At the same time, you should have a micro view of the places you're living, and also read news, how they are reporting in their newspapers or channels, or even podcasts for that matter.
Yeah, sure.
I pick up from what Rupam has said, and
Sure.
I was just at my phone to scan for numbers. So, there are 53 Bengali television channels between Bengal and Bangladesh. There are 127. So 53 in Bengali, 127 news networks in south of India, telling stories in the languages of South India, and 22 in Marathi. 22 in Marathi, 19 in Gujarati. So it's not like regional language news doesn't exist. But as Rupam mentioned, the explosion in the place hasn't happened. Maybe, the mainstream acceptance of regional language news has not happened, but it's not that stories are not told in those languages, because there are just so many outlets and just so many reporters, producers, all other kind of people working for all these news medium, so there is existing, but of course, we need people like you, people, enterprising people like you, who then can not just talk or not just, relay the news in her own language, her mother tongue, but also in English, because there's a lot of value to being a bilingual, multilingual reporter today. So if you know about 3 or 4 languages in India, and if you are able to relay your news in different languages and connect to different audiences, that really sets you apart. And that is what I'm calling a hip pocket skill. I know a girl in my newsroom. She speaks English, she speaks Hindi, she speaks Punjabi, she speaks Bengali, she speaks Marathi, she speaks Spanish and French. So she speaks 7 languages, and she has her little podcast, and what she does is easy explainers of Indian news bulletins on her podcast. And it's just her own for the time being, and we all keep telling her that she should put it up online and try and give access to as many people as possible, because she's putting out in 7 languages, and it's easy explainer of the headlines of the day. That's it. So knowing languages helps, and if you know 2 or 3 languages, if you have reported your main news in Hindi, you report another version of the news in English. You report, one news can be reported in many versions. So we do the main story, we do 3 or 4 takes of the story, isn't it, Rupam? You do the first take, second take. So we normally do up till, I don't know how many takes Rupam does. We do up till 5 takes of a story.
Yeah, it can go out through the day, and the process can keep on changing. But just one thing which I would really like to, sorry, there was a call coming. Just one thing I would really like to say and insist on is that if you all can, and this is one of the most important things I feel, is that picking up a language, be it Arabic, be it Spanish, be it Farsi, be it Bengali, any 1 or 2 extra languages properly makes a huge difference in long run in your journalism career, if you are thinking it seriously, and it opens many other doors also. So as Rica said, I think language skills play a very critical role, and even studying languages is an interesting aspect of understanding journalism. So that's something you all can consider.
To me, if you ask me, more than it being a language, English is an enabler, because English is a language everyone understands. So it is an enabler that we all need to understand. Beyond that, we need to understand other languages, because, not all the time thoughts in certain languages get translated. So if for example, Tamil, you can't literally translate Tamil in between lines, or you can't translate Bangla in between lines. You can't translate Spanish word for word, Japanese word for word. So you approximately do the translation, because English is a language that is widely known, widely accepted, and it's an enabler for the world. So while you must know English, there are other languages that if you know, it becomes very, very, very helpful.
Yes, ma'am. I think all of us have understood how important it is to take up a language and rather focus on becoming a journalist for a regional language than, trying to become one for an English mainstream channel. So, ma'am, my next question is to you, Rica, ma'am. So, as you might already know, many people think that journalism is, a glamorous profession filled with lots of money, glitz, and, lots of glamour. So, in your terms or in your take, is this a myth, or is that the reality that everyone faces being a journalist?
Well, as Rupam said, it is a myth. Rupam also said that journalism is far from a glamorous profession. Yes, you get to meet the newsmakers of the day. You get to meet a lot of important people, hang out with them, because they need you as much as you need them. You need them to do your stories, and they need you because their stories, their work needs to go out in the media. Hence, they need you. So, it's a two-way traffic. That's why you meet those people in your everyday life. But no, it is not a glamorous profession. It is one of the most grounding professions, I would say. While you can meet while the President of India can be your subject for the story, the beggar on the street can also become your subject in the same day, and you don't know how it happens. He may have done something miraculous in front of your eyes, and you just watched it, and that has become your story. You've just left the president's house, walked out, and there was someone out on the street. Perhaps his or her life has been saved by a beggar. So while president is your subject of the day, that beggar who saved the life also becomes your subject of the day. So it doesn't mean that you're not going to do that story. So glamour is there, but I would say it's all about understanding where you stand, and it's very, very important to remain grounded, have your ears to the ground. It's very important. One of the most important ability to become a good journalist is your ability to hear. More than talk, if you can listen to people, that not just helps you connect, but also get your stories better. If you are the better the journalist is, the better the listener he or she is. So always remember, if you're a good listener, you will become a better journalist.
Yeah, so I think, ma'am, more than being, breaking this myth for us, we have pretty much understood that, all people are the same. So there's nothing in journalism where one person's greater than the other. So you have to give more priority to him or her. So I think we've understood that. Rupa, ma'am, my next question's to you. So now with the advancement in technology and mass communication, journalism offers a variety of platforms like print, digital media, TV, or podcasts as a medium generating a greater impact on the spectators or rather the listeners. But along with a better reach, there's a catch as well. So notions are being raised that journalism is limited to being in TV or writing articles in newspaper because people do not exactly acknowledge the plethora of the online media that's available for them to know more about various news that are happening around. So could you please give us your views on that, ma'am?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I understand that there's still a bit of a divide, especially between the urban and the rural parts of the country, wherever there is more technology infusion, like big cities, of course, you have access to things like Twitter, where you can read directly from, the source, and you might not even need a journalist to tell you what's going on sometimes. But I think this divide is being really bridged very fast, and especially right now as we are sitting on the Zoom call. I mean, yours would be the first generation who would be interviewing a lot of people digitally, unlike just going into their houses or their offices or meeting them outside. So I also feel that there is a question which we have to understand, is that how much of a digital divide is also a good thing. Like sometimes you really need to meet a person physically to be able to understand where they come from, what kind of settings they are in, the tension around it. Like it's one thing to sit in a newsroom and just cover a protest, but to understand that what is really going on the ground, you really need to go there. So coming back to the question of being, digital savvy and the new platforms, it is the need of the hour, and more such platforms will be created. But they also is, the traditional media of television is also switching. Like you will see a lot of stuff then now moving to, apps. And we all already have apps. Like my company has an app, Rica's company has an app. So the content will not change in terms of what we produce, but the medium of distribution and the mechanism of spreading it is changing very fast. So who knew like 4 years ago that you could be reading an entire article on a phone? People would laugh at you saying that, aankhein kharab ho jayengi agar aap phone pe sab kuch padhoge. But now everything and almost everyone tends to, especially urban centers, tends to read a lot on their smartphone. So how we write also, and where our, material gets printed and how it's displayed is also something we are considering. Similarly, people want things to be in a very short form, but at the same time, then there is also an appetite for deep reading. So you have to curate different products for different requirements and what it merits. Therefore, I think there is no battle between the traditional or the digital. It's just a seamless thing now. You're doing it, the same product can be packaged differently for different mediums.
Ma'am, so although I think there is a long way for us to go right now, but I think we're going on the right path where everything, or rather everyone, is becoming digital for the world. Ma'am, so connecting on whatever Rupam ma'am said, the next question to Rica ma'am is that now the recent developments involving Twitter and the social media regulation in general, as far as news is concerned, is a cause for concern because of the policies of the medium as well as the politics involved in it. So social media plays a really huge life in everyone's life today. So how does it, end up affecting a person's life and career, and how does this regulation, affect a journalist or rather a person in general?
Well, we would really have to see where this fight between Twitter and government ends. But I don't think, even though there is a crackdown on Twitter, Twitter is going to stop, because it's something, it's a medium that has exploded, taken over all our lives. And a lot of people I speak to, they say they look at Twitter to get their news. So a lot of news outlets also use Twitter to tweet out their news, because when you see on social media, then you go back to the website or the app or to TV to watch that. So it's an important vehicle of communication today in our daily lives. While that's important, the other thing that's important is verifying the news that you get out of Twitter. Not 100% news coming from Twitter is true and is to be used. So you have to be canny about selecting the process of news that you use, because news is all about information that we want to use in our day-to-day lives. So then, as a consumer, because with Twitter you have the relationship of a consumer. So as a consumer, you have to be intelligent and you have to be canny to pick out the news that then will change your life, because there's a lot of news that's given to you on Twitter that can be dangerous, that can cause you harm. So you need to know all of that. And if you encounter such news, there is help around you, you should speak to them, not just quietly make your opinion about them. Before you make your opinion about news that's given on Twitter, you should speak to at least 3 people around you and see and understand whether that news is true or not. So that's one of the downside of social media. And just remember, social media is not mainstream media. Social media is social media for us to interact. A journalist's job is still important. It is very different from sitting and tweeting messages. It's much more than that. So social media is social media, traditional media is traditional media. If you are getting your news out of social media, you have to then cross-check and be canny about what you're picking up. I think Gayatri's line has frozen.
Yes, I think she's having some network issue. No issues. I think I will take on. It's just the last question anyway. So Rupam ma'am, this question is directed to you. What can practicing journalists do to make journalism an ideal profession again and set an example so that more students enter this profession?
That's a loaded
yeah, that's a loaded question. Also sleep, I guess, more because you need to unwind and have a balance. I would say, what should we be doing more? Thinking out of the box. Because it's not easy for us also to be able to understand so much grief around, and then that becomes a part of our lives also. But also learning to keep it light, like mentally light, and of course physically also exercise. But I think thinking out of the box and trying to look for stories which also bring some hope And that is something very hard right now. Like, I'll just give you a quick example of I wrote about the Bhutan's king last week, where the king, and it's available online for anybody to read, like the king has been walking through the last 1 year and going to every village and spreading the message that how people should be careful during the pandemic. Now, to see a leader or a king do that fills a lot of hope among people. And when you write it, sorry.
Bhutan.
Sorry?
Are you talking about the Bhutanese king?
Yes, the Bhutanese king. Yeah. So I think a story like that about a king or a ruler also shows that how things can be done differently, and the impact, because Bhutan has only had one death in the last 14 months due to the COVID crisis. So those kinds of stories are really important to build hope and show that how different people are doing things differently. So I would just say the focus a little bit on hope, empowering stories, things that show that somebody is defying their odds, because the atmosphere is very tense right now and everybody's quite exhausted. Of course, we cover reality, but at the same time, we also make an effort to find some ray of hope and positive stories or effort which shows that there is result on the ground. So that's only one thing which I really feel as journalists we should be a little looking at that aspect of also.
I'll just add to what Rupam said. I think we should make an active effort, all of us journalists, to divorce journalism from activism, because activism is not journalism. So anyone and everyone who's trying to be an activist with the pen is not a journalist. That person is an activist. I think as a society, we should make a conscious effort then to recognize who's a journalist and who's an activist. And responsible journalism means that you have to show the society its mirror. So that's being a journalist. A journalist is also almost like a postman who gives you news, and at times, if asked to decode the news and give you some explanations, easy explanations about it. Nothing more than that. The person who's trying to take it forward and use it in activism is an activist, not a journalist.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was answered beautifully. Rica ma'am, Rupam ma'am, thank you so much for answering all the questions so patiently. I think
so many questions on the chat boxes.
Yes.
We'll just start throwing.
Yes, I'll just hand over to Sampurna so that she can take over for the audience Q&A.
Okay. So firstly, I would like to welcome Rica Roy ma'am and Rupam ma'am on my side as well. And I would like to straightly jump into the feedback forms, which is there in the chat box, so that the viewers can just fill them up and fill that form with their suggestions, so that next time we can come up with another event of this sort and improve it even more with all of your suggestions and advice. So if you would please kindly take the time, this is for the viewers, and fill up the suggestions form in the chat box. While you do that, I would like to dive into the audience question and answers which are in the chat box. So the first question is to you, Rica ma'am. You mentioned that journalists are mirror to the society, like they are a reflective part of the society. So how difficult was for you to walk the path of a journalist, and that too with the current pandemic? What are the chances of becoming a journalist? So if you would like to answer this.
Well, I think the pandemic situation makes it, as Rupa mentioned, one of the most relevant professions. Apart from health, one of the sectors that is expected to grow year on year is journalism, because everyone is expecting to know credible information, credible source of information, because it matters to your and my life. Hence, journalism will see an exponential growth, and all mediums of journalism will see a growth. For me, when I started at a time when journalism, particularly television journalism, was nascent in India, so I had my unique challenges, and perhaps those are not the challenges that you guys are going to meet. because this is a very different generation. You do your journalism very differently because the mediums of journalism, the tools that you use are very different. So the challenges that you face thereby will be different. However, journalism is a very, very relevant profession today, and we need good journalists every day.
That was very nicely put, ma'am. The next question I have is for Rupa, ma'am. But like, I would like to say something first before I dive into the question, is that, ma'am, I'm also a student of Florida College, Kolkata. So it's really nice talking to an alumni of Florida College, Kolkata.
Yeah, it is. You should call me later and tell me what's going on there.
Sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Absolutely, absolutely. So the next question is for you. A viewer has written that I am currently working as a marketing executive after completing engineering and MBA. I interned with a publishing house 2 years back and developed this crazy love for news writing. I don't know how to take my career path from here. Should I go for masters or just take up an internship or something?
Sorry, the degree, what the person has, what kind of a degree? Sorry, can you say that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, degree, ma'am, he has first pursued engineering and then MBA, and then worked at the publishing house. Yes.
Oh, great. Okay, so I think why not? I would say just try for both. Like, apply for internships. If you get internships, give that a first preference, even if it's low paying. And if you're so committed, as you say, that you love the idea of working as a journalist. And if those internships don't work out, why not even consider doing a next degree in a journalism school at some reputed place? It could be overseas also, it could be within India. So I think both can be dabbled together. Whichever clicks, it clicks. You have to spread the fishing net wide, I would say.
So I think it answered the question of the viewer. So jumping on to the next question, I have for Rica, ma'am. So people say that it is not easy to enter the field of journalism for everyone. Only those who have background of the journalism can enter. So is it true? Like, what is the scope? Like, what are the different branches of journalism if one can actually enter in the first place then?
I think Rupam mentioned this earlier, that if you have a degree in a basic degree in whatever you like, you can do English, you can do history, you can do economics, you can do physics, chemistry, and then side by side, if you start doing a few internships and figure how you fit into that space, and then you can graduate to becoming an economic journalist or a health journalist or a business journalist, a sports journalist, whatever. At that point, I think you will find your path. But I would still recommend doing a basic degree in one of the mainstream subjects than studying a BA or BSc in journalism, which you can, because journalism, I think, is a skill that you develop. It's more than studying it as a course. Journalism is a skill, and that skill you can continue to develop side by side. You don't need to study. When you study a mainstream course, I think the training that you get with that stays with you forever, and that's invaluable. And I think everyone needs to go through that grind rather than be allured by studying journalism as BSc or BA. See, you can even you can go for film studies after you have completed a degree in physics. I have a friend who's done a degree in physics, BSc in physics, and then she's gone to do her film studies in Jamia, and she is now working in Bollywood. So so you can have various careers. She's a very, very successful editor in Bollywood. So you can have, sky is the limit, really. You don't need to study journalism as your basic degree to become a journalist.
Ma'am, I think it's a very useful insight, because I am also a history honors student, and I wish to pursue marketing. So previously I used to think that I can change my college, I will change my college and change my stream. But now I feel that, okay, some sort of information and experience from this subject can also help me in the marketing sector as well when I pursue that, although marketing and history is not related at all. So it's a very useful insight for students like us who suffer from this dilemma. So the next question is for Rupa ma'am. With current restrictions on OTT and media and publishing news, can I still choose to be a political journalist? A question from a viewer.
So I think, political journalism is something, what happens is that you have to start doing everything when you become a journalist. Essentially, you will have to understand all kinds of stories. And slowly, then you can specialize. And how that can also be done is by studying political science as a very important subject, or history for that matter, or even English literature, if you want to do it in English. But I think, those kind of specializations come over a period of time. First, you have to do everything. Essentially, it's just take an example of like cooking. You go and do grocery shopping. And when you go and do grocery shopping, you buy a lot of things. So similarly, in journalism also, to begin with, you end up learning and buying, or like rather understanding news by covering many things. And then, you can focus on making one thing consistently good all the time. But that takes a while, right? So you have to first do everything, take a deep dive, and then understand that, okay, which part of it is what interests me the most and why I want to pursue it. So I think you have to just start with doing everything. Like I have been a political journalist for a long time. I've also covered war. I have covered general news. I cover economics also. I don't cover sports like Rica. So those were the things that interest me, and I see myself, enjoying while I'm writing about them. But for someone, if they just enjoy covering sports, I mean, then,
But
someone like
sports, I made you report on the Afghanistan cricket team.
Yes. So once in a while, we always, have to cover everything. And there is no such thing as, oh, I cannot understand this. Like if you have a balance sheet of a company and if you have to report their quarterly profits or even a rate, run rate of a cricketer, you have to be able to do that. And for that, you need to have, the right contacts. But all I'm saying is that, specializations come over a period of time. And that only once you've gotten into the profession and started understanding everything slowly, and then gradually you can slip into becoming a specialist.
Basically, you have to become a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
And master of one thereafter.
Yeah, one or two if you can.
And there's nothing like political science, padke political journalist ban gaye, or tumne sports nahi khela, so you can't become a sports journalist. There's nothing like that. It's the interest in knowing what you are going to then pursue is what gets you there. And as Rupam mentioned, that you have to be updated with the knowledge and the skill of the profession. If you want to do, if you want to use history to become, a journalist, you can then, use your knowledge of history to, upgrade yourself further and become a journalist as well. It doesn't matter who you are and what background you're coming from, as long as you're updated with all the information of the day.
So true, ma'am. So now I have to end with all the questions, and I would like to tell the audience that if you have any more questions to Rica ma'am and Rupam ma'am, you can please mail it to our to this website as far.
There was an interesting question that popped up, and I want to take that question, whether someone can be an entrepreneur and be a journalist. And I would say, yes, you can be an entrepreneur journalist. If you are a freelancer, you need to manage your news gathering. You need to manage your technical stuff, your news distribution all together, and have an entrepreneurial mindset to be able to do it 360 degree. And yes, you can be a journalist entrepreneur. You know, a lot of people across the globe who are freelancers, a lot of people who work for Rupam's organization from across the globe, you know, they are one person army. They do everything. They are first typing out their report for the website, then they're doing it for digital, then they are giving you a feed for TV. So it's, you know, one person probably then does 5 things, and he's an entrepreneur, she's an entrepreneur. At the end of the day, maybe that person would have earned $5,000 because she's done everything in the given day of the given news. When we get news of the Olympic Games, there are a lot of people on the ground today. A lot of us can't travel because of the pandemic, and we use resources from the ground, and these are one-person crew who are going to then charge us 5,000 yen a day to be able to give us feed of the events that the Indian teams are going to take part in. And they are journalist entrepreneurs. All the money they have invested in their equipment, and all the money they earn, that goes to them, and they then create resource pool. They then have their own journalist friends, or they employ other people during the period of you know, an event, and they send out these people to gather the news for them, and in turn they run this economy. So of course it is possible for you to become a journalist and an entrepreneur.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. And most importantly, like even I follow an journalist entrepreneur on YouTube. Her name is Faye D'Souza. Like she puts just the news. So I think it's very interesting. Like no biases, no nothing, just the news.
She puts easy explainers of the news of the day. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So it was very nice hearing from you. The questions from Rica ma'am and Rupa ma'am, the answers so well put. Now, I would like to say to the audience that if you have any more questions, you can write to our founder, Madhura ma'am, for a mentorship request at madhura@aspireforher.org. And now I would like Jasmine to take over. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rica ma'am and Rupam ma'am, for answering these questions. And so we are going to have a workshop next Monday, that is 5th of July, which is going to be fun, interesting, and packed with learning opportunities. And it's going to be on journalism. And Rica ma'am herself is going to be organizing that workshop. So to continue that workshop, we would like to know a few of your preferences in journalism, and which is why we'll have a poll coming up for y'all right now. So we request you all to put in your preferred format. Requesting all of you all to please put in your preferences. Okay, so we have anchoring, that is majority's choice.
Okay, we will do anchoring.
Great. So next week we're going to have a session with Rica ma'am, 5th July, and we are really looking forward to seeing all of you all there, because it's going to be very interesting.
July.
Now we'll have Sampurna. Now we'll have Sampurna continue and introduce Madhura ma'am, our CEO and founder.
Sure. So I would like to take this opportunity to introduce a leader who aims to change the world for better, Ms. Madhura Dasgupta Sinha. She is the founder and CEO of Aspire for Her, with a mission to change the diversity equation of our country. With over 25 years of experience in the banking industry, her career includes building one of India's youngest banks and of leading the merger of the bank with an NBFC and of 17 years in an NMC bank in various business leadership roles, including growing the P&L to $100 million business. We all welcome you to this session. Please share a few words with us. I'm sure many of us have a lot to learn from you. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, I managed to unmute myself now. You know, as usual, I caught a part of this session only because there's another very urgent meeting that I had to get to. But what I caught was so amazing. And thank you so much, Rica and Rupam, for being here on our platform. I would have personally loved to welcome you, but I know that the team would have made you feel very welcome because, you know, without that, I don't think the session would have been so amazing when I walked in. You know, when I was growing up, you know, I did electrical engineering, okay? Just like the person Shampurna that you spoke about, I did electrical engineering and then I did my MBA and then I went to a bank, which had nothing to do with electrical engineering really. But when I was growing up, I had always wanted to be a journalist. And if I had the opportunity to speak to people like Rica and Rupam, like you guys have, you know, my career path would have been, I am sure, would have been very different. And perhaps I would have actually gone and, you know, chased that dream and followed that passion. I don't know, Rica, whether we have had so many conversations, whether I have shared this ever with you or not, but I think I haven't, and now I'm sharing it in front of all my young friends, that this is something so amazing. And that Rica is actually doing the workshop in exactly what you need to get equipped to understand whether this space is for you or not. And it may well be that you get in and you realize that it isn't for me, and that's just fine. This is what we call a true career preview at Aspire for Her. This is one of the 5-point models that we work on. And of course, the others include mentors and role models. You'll have people like Rica and Rupam who are there to do 1:1 sessions with you. And they're very generous with their time. We have more than 100 mentors today. We have lots of learning opportunities like this one, as in we just sit in and we listen to what sort of work opportunities there are. And, you know, when I heard about the cricket team in Afghanistan and Rupam's journey into political journalism and covering wars, oh my God, I mean, you know, I was just thinking to myself, you know, this should have been 25 years back or maybe 30 years back, and my life would have been so different. The other things that we work on are a fantastic peer community, and we also want to give you opportunities on what we call 3E, which is employment, entrepreneurship, and education. If some of you watched us yesterday, we launched a brand new community called Entrepreneuring, and this is for all women entrepreneurs. So I was very happy to see one entrepreneurial question pop up over here as well. You know, this is for all women entrepreneurs and women who aspire to be entrepreneurs and men who wish to support it. I'm seeing some men here, and you know, thank you very much for being here with us. We do not want to exclude men from any movement, and from anything that we're trying to do. We want to ensure that men understand the power of having women in the economy, because if the economy grows, then everybody grows. And currently only 20%, less than 20% of women are playing a role in the economy, as a result of which, as a country, we're not really going where we ought to be going. So that's our only request. We would love all of you to come and join Aspire for Her, whether it's as a member, if you're a woman, or as a supporter, if you're a man. But Rica and Rupam, absolutely blown by the conversation today. And thank you so much for making the time to spend time with our young community. We will keep coming back. Rica has been an absolute backbone to Aspire for Her. I think, you know, all of us who work with her, who know her. Yeah.
It is not a one-way traffic. You have been my inspiration in this journey.
She's very kind. But, you know, seriously, I think the sort of stuff that she has done for us goes beyond any sort of, you know, boundaries. She has just gone above and beyond to do so many things for Aspire for Her. It is an honor to have you here, Rica. And thank you for also getting Rupam in. I am sure that, this is not the last time that we're speaking with Rupam. There will be many more, opportunities for us to engage with her, to interact with her, to learn from her. So thank you so much. And thank you so much to all the students here. I realized that a lot of you would have signed up for Aspire for Her. It is a new world out there, and it is made by you. If there is something that you need, just like the way Jasmine did it here, if there's something that you need, we will ask for it. Okay, if you want to do a workshop on something, tell us about it, and we will get it done for you. That's how we work, and we work completely on feedback. We work completely on what our members are telling us, because we don't know always. We never feel that we know. We feel that you know best, and this is truly a community which is of the people, by the people, for the people, primarily young and mid-career women who want to change the diversity equation of India. So a warm welcome to all of you, to the community, and a big thank you to Rica and to Rupam, and all of you who've actually gone around doing this whole organization. Ruchita has been absolutely fantastic in coordinating, ensuring that everything is in place. And this was the first time that we were doing some things. So thank you so much, Ruchita, for that. We don't know what we do without you, and for anything and everything, we go to Ruchita. Okay.
Ruchita, a big shout out to both of you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I see Jaita. I see Pankti here. Gurleen, thank you so much. And I know that they worked very hard for this. And Gargi, Dhwani, Sampurna, Jasmine, and all of you who today joined us are really a part of our community. We have an ambassador program which Gurleen runs. Some of you may be interested in applying for it at some point in time. We then, from the ambassador program, we often take people into our core team, and they become parts of directing Aspire for Her's destiny and really crafting and designing the journey forward. So thank you so much. We look forward to welcoming all of you to all our other events. We have many things coming up. And don't forget to catch the updates on all of this on our social media, because we are so busy now that, social media is the only way for you to check whether interesting stuff is coming up. There are lots of jobs, internship opportunities, so don't forget about those. Do keep your eyes and ears open, and we'd love to have you consume all our resources. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madhura. Really grateful to be here. And one thing before we end, I would just like to say to all of you who are out there and willing to explore a little bit about journalism and interested in doing an internship, you can please write to Ruchita on NDTV. We do take interns time to time. I will have vacancies once again post-July. And you guys can, so I will take 2 interns at a time, and I'll take 2 interns for 2 months, because that's a good time for you guys to know and understand what's happening in the newsroom. So you can send your CVs to Ruchita, and we can then, explore a wonderful journey with you guys.
This is such a dream opportunity, right?
I know. We are virtual internship because during the pandemic, Sidra, we are not being able to get anyone to the newsroom. We can't expose you to the dangers of COVID. So unfortunately, for the time being, yes, it will be virtual. But if situation improves at some point, we can call you in and show you the process a little more. But the virtual internship, during the virtual internship, you will learn a lot about journalism, how we actually execute the stuff. You will learn about that, but I won't be able to show you the machines. Yes.
So Ruchita has got a very simple email ID. Some of you are asking, is ruchita@aspireforher.org. So please feel free. I mentioned that she gets a lot of emails. So do mention that this is for the NDTV internship that you're applying for. And please ensure that it's there in the subject line as well as in the body of the mail. It just makes life a little easier for us. So fantastic, Rica. This is such a generous opportunity. And I'm sure that the students here, do understand how lucky they are to actually get an opportunity to work side by side with you. So thank you so
I
much.
think Farah Garge was a great example. She did not decide, she did not come to me as an intern having decided to do journalism as a career. But when she finished her internship, she wrote back to me saying that she's seriously exploring a career in journalism. So, and I got her through Aspire for Her.
Fantastic. Oh, subject matter should be internship. Oh, yeah, that's what she written. Okay, fabulous. Thank you so much. I think should we end, Ruchita? Do we have anything else?
No, I think it's all done. I wish I was a student, Rika. I would have loved to be one of those interns. Yeah,